In this third volume, I want to teach you how to use the point and edge of your fighting knife so that you can take maximum advantage of it when you're actually in the street and having to use your blade. The first thing I'm going to start with is the point itself, and I'm going to teach you how to rake with it, then how to use the speed jab, the straight thrust, the power thrust, and the épée thrust. And then I'm going to conclude this section with how to use your point in elliptical, looping, or circular stabbing motions. Then I'm going to go on to teaching you how to use the edge. The first thing we're going to start with is the slash, then the cut, then the chop, then the hack, then the snap cut, then the vertical whip, and finally conclude this with sawing, which is seldom taught. Then I'm going to go into the 12 angles of attack, how you can recognize these angles and how to use them both offensively and defensively. So let's get into the gym and start training. In my opinion, one of the least taught aspects of knife fighting is how to use the point. Hardly anybody goes into great depth in teaching you all the different ways that you can use the point in a knife fight. We're going to remedy that situation in this presentation. I'm going to teach you today all the basic ways that you can use your point in a knife fight. We're going to start at the bottom of the force continuum and then work our way up. At the very bottom is raking. What you want to do when you rake somebody with your knife tip is you want to limit the damage that you're doing to them. What your goal is to cause pain and fear. You want them usually to move away from the knife. To get that response, you're going to use the tip, just the tip, not the edges. You're going to use just the tip to rip open their flesh. I'm going to have Ron come in so I can demonstrate this. What I want you to do is I want you to take your fighting knife. Now this is a trainer. I've taken the edge and the point off. I want you to turn it to the blade is flat against his body part or target that you want to engage first. So the tip goes flat. You're going to raise the handle till that tip bites in. You can see that. The handle's raising up. And Ron, can you feel that? That tip is biting into his flesh now. I'm going to pull diagonally across Ron's chest. I always want the edges to be at right angles to the direction I'm going to pull. You never rake this way. Edge in the same direction, because what you do there is you drive the edge into the flesh. That's not what you want. What you want to do is just take the tip and rip the flesh open, because you want a shallow wound, not a deep wound. So the edges are always at right angles to the direction you're going to rake. So I'm just going to dip that in there and pull across his chest. I like to rake the pecs because it does the least amount of damage. Here I'm ripping open his abdomen, and he can get a lot more problems with infection and stuff like that. If I pierce the stomach cavity, get into the intestines, if I cut those, he's got a lot more problems. But if I stay up here on these big muscle groups and I rip those like that, it's going to rip the skin open, it's going to rip the surface flesh open, the blood's going to spring up, it's going to cause pain, and most people's reaction when you go like that, they sink into it, and then they grab it just like Ron did, and they go, I've been cut. And they want to get away from that. They don't want to stay there and have you do this. Okay? So this is a good target from the front, is the pecs. Now I'm going to have Ron turn around from the back. The shoulder blades are another good target that you can rake. Again, I like to rake diagonally like this, either way. So you're going to lay the tip of your knife flat on your opponent's shoulder blade, lift the handle to the point bites, and then drag it across, just like this. You can do it forehand or backhand. Another good target for raking is the outside of the arms. Now remember, our goal in raking is to limit the damage that we're doing, not to maximize it. So we're going to use the tip of the knife to rip that flesh open on the outside of his arms. Same thing on this side. You can also rake the outside of the thigh, and if you're knocked on the ground, you can rake the outside of the calf. We want to stay away from the insides of the body when you're raking, because you're going to do more damage in here, more damage in here. We don't want to rake those areas. We want to limit the damage. When you're faced with multiple opponents like I am right now, there's obviously they have more force than I do. There's Some of them are bigger than I am, and there's more of them. But it's probably not a good idea to start stabbing everybody in the stomach to begin with. You probably are on the wrong there because you've escalated the force way past what's called for at that particular moment. This is where raking can stand you in good stead. You can use the tip of your knife to drive these people off. Now, I want you to imagine that these men are actively involved in a felony. They're sexually assaulting women in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's my job, I'd hope I had the courage to do this in real life. I don't know if I would, but I hope I would. It's my job now to drive them off. So what I would say is, back off! And if they don't move, he gets raked, and he gets raked, and he gets raked. Okay? Now, sometimes that may be not enough. So that when I rake this person and I rake this person, they close on me. And I have to cut this person and cut this person and cut that person. Because in a fight, when you're facing multiple opponents, you can't afford to go to the ground. If Robert ties up this arm and Ron shoots and I try to sprawl a little bit, I've got to get rid of things right now. If I go to the ground, they'll kick me to death very quickly. I've got to cut him. I've got to cut him. And I've got to cut him. I just can't fool around at that point. You've got to match the force to the situation. If I can drive them off by raking, I will. I will. I will. But if that doesn't work, or there's too many, you can't afford to be overwhelmed. You're going to have to use your edge and your point. To practice raking at home, I want you to grab your training partner and use your foam trainers. These are, remember, made out of PVC pipe and furnace foam with duct tape over them with a padded tip. One person is going to be the target person. The other one's going to be the defender or aggressor. What I want you to do is I want you to take the padded tip of your trainer, lay it on your opponent's pec, lift the handle till the tip bites in, and press in as you pull diagonally across this chest. You have to press in as you go across the chest. This doesn't feel that great, but you need to endure it so that you get the feel for actually raking somebody. What I don't want you to do is this. That won't even rip somebody's t-shirt hardly with a fighting knife. You have to lay the blade flat, lift the handle till the tip bites in, and put some pressure into that. Then have your training partner spin around, and I want you to practice raking the shoulder blades the same way. Dig in and rake across. Then I want you to practice raking the outside of the arm and the outside of the thigh. Now, your training partner can give you some feedback here now. He can say that's too light, or yeah, that feels like that's really going to bite in. He needs to tell you if you're going too light. You want to feel some pressure. That's how you train it. I want you to go back and forth till you're used to it. I want you to train the pecs, the back of the shoulders, the shoulder blades, the outside of the arms, and the outside of the thighs, so that you go to those instinctively when you want to rake somebody with the tip of your knife. Next up on the force continuum is the jab. You can use the tip of your fighting knife to jab with, just like a boxer uses his lead hand. The purpose of the jab is to confuse and to drive and harass your opponent. You can hurt him into the position you want with your jab. You can keep him off you with the jab. You can confuse him as to your real intentions with the jab. Now, when you're using the jab, your goal isn't to embed the entire knife blade in your opponent's body. All you want to get in is maybe a ½ inch, that much of the tip. A ½ inch to an inch of penetration with the jab, that's all you're looking for, because the jab has to be executed with speed. The most important element of the jab is speed. Deft, precise, smooth speed, not power. There is no power with the jab with the tip of your knife. All you want to do is get in your fighting stance, and you want to extend your arm straight out all the way and retract it. It's arm power. You're not bringing any power from your legs, no power from your hips, no power from your back, and no power from your shoulder. All I want you to do is extend your arm smoothly. I want you to start out slow at first, so you get used to doing it. And then, little by little, I want you to start increasing your speed. Now, when you jab, Try not to make your arm straighten all the way because it puts shock on the back of your elbow. You don't need to irritate your elbow doing this. Leave just a little bit of room before you're fully extended and start your retraction. I don't want your arm to snap out and fully extend and then pull back. Try not to extend all the way. And a good target for the jab is your opponent's face and his knife hand. All you want to do is, like I said, is get about a ½ inch to an inch of your tip to penetrate. Now, as you progress in practicing, I want you to concentrate on your retraction just as much as your initiation. When you stick your blade out, it goes out fast and it comes back faster. So it's out and back, because the jab is used so you're not exposed very long. I don't want my knife hand out here and for a very long period of time because I don't want to be countercut. The jab limits the time that your opponent has to countercut you. When you stick it out there fast and bring it back fast, he doesn't have a good time to mount his own counterattack. So I want you to stick it out and retract it, stick it out and retract it, just like that. Light, deft motions, just with your arm. Our goal when using the jab was just to get a ½ inch or an inch of the tip of our knife into our opponent. Now we're going to add a little bit more power and try to get more penetration with a straight thrust. A straight thrust is very similar to the jab, except we're going to add more power. So the way you execute a straight thrust is to get in your fighting stance. And now I want you to add more power from your shoulder and a very slight bend in your knees as you transfer power into that tip. Now, when you're doing a straight thrust, you're trying to get most of the blade into your opponent. So penetration now is more on our mind than just speed. We're trying to get some penetration. Show you again. Get in your fighting stance, and you're going to stab a little harder now. Your knees may bend a little bit, and you're going to bring a little bit more power from your shoulder and put more power into that straight thrust. A straight thrust, in my experience, will totally drive your blade up to the guard and the abdomen. Once you get past the clothes and the skin, the abdomen is just like spaghetti. There's no resistance to your point. It'll go all the way in. Also, in my experience, it will frequently split the rib cage. If you hit a rib, unlike on TV, with a straight thrust, a good straight thrust, and you've got a good fighting knife, it's going to split the rib and it's going to continue to penetrate. So the rib cage quite often doesn't stop a straight thrust. The sternum may stop a straight thrust because it's really hard and it's a little bit thicker bone. It may or may not stop your thrust. The ball joints of the shoulder and the ball joints of the hip will stop your straight thrust in my experience. You've got a good chance though of going through the shoulder blades back here on a straight thrust and getting your blade into the lungs. So it's a really useful way to use your point. It's a little bit more committed, so you have to have a bigger opening to get in a straight thrust than you do to a speed jab, but it does a lot more damage. Get with your training partner and have him extend his arm, just like we did with the speed jab. I want you to practice it this way. Get this all the way out. Your target is the end of his trainer, or the end of his training knife. That red area right there. I want you to assume your fighting stance, and I want you to stab that with a little bit more power now. Your goal is to drive your blade all the way through the target. Now, as you get a little bit more familiar with that, move around a little bit and stab it. Stab it. Stab it. Stab it. Keep in mind, you may want to get back out again, but you're trying to get penetration on that. Just like that. The power stab is one of the most powerful ways you can employ your fighting knife's point. Before, our goal was with the speed jab, just to get a little bit of the point in, and then with the straight thrust, we're trying to get all the blade. Now, I want you to use so much power in your stabbing motion that you'll drive this point through any obstacle. To execute the power stab, get in your fighting stance, imagine your opponent's in front of you, and Now, you're going to have to summon up some internal energy here. Some people might even call it hate. You're going to have to bring up some force out of your stomach, out of your lower midsection, right in there. Summon that power. Think about totally transfixing your opponent with your knife. You're going to drive this thing all the way through him, through his shirt, his jacket, his t-shirt, his rib cage, all the way right through to his heart. That's what you have to think about in a power stab, because you're going to bring all your power now. What I want you to do, it's very similar to a straight thrust now, but what we're going to do is we're going to use our legs, we're going to bend our knee, we're going to transfer body weight, we're going to use all our power in our stabbing motion. Here's what it looks like. Notice I almost take a step forward and I bend my knee. It's not a big step or a deep bend of the knee like in a lunge, but it definitely commits your body weight forward. And you're going to stab him. And you're going to stab him. You're putting so much power forward into him that your retraction is slower than with a straight thrust or a speed jab. So this is a more committed motion, so you have to have a good opening in order to get in a power stab. But it's a fight ender. Let's try it again. Just like that. Now, I'm going to call Ron in, and we're going to show you how to train this at home. Get in your fighting stance, summon your internal energy, and stab that thing like you don't like it. Your goal is to penetrate that totally. Now, you're going to notice your accuracy, as you increase power, your accuracy is going to decrease. So you need to practice this and practice this and practice this so that you can hit a small point on your opponent's body with a lot of power. The more power you try to bring, the slower you're going to be and the less accurate. Just like that. Switch back and forth as you practice this. Another way to use your point in a straight thrusting motion is in what I call a fencing style or a pay thrust. To do this, it's pretty simple. All you do is face your opponent and use your trainer, come in your on-guard fighting stance, pick the point that you want to attack on his body. I'm going to take Ron's left pec. I reach out with my knife. Normally you raise your knife to execute this, but you can also drop your knife onto the target. I raise my knife till it touches the target, just till it touches it. When my tip touches the target, I bend my front knee and I shoot my hips forward like this. And that puts my point into the target, right through his chest. So all you want to do to begin with is get your training partner, have him stand here like this in exposed position, because this is just to help you learn. It's a little bit uncomfortable, so you're going to have to endure a little bit of discomfort. It doesn't feel that great to have this happen to you dozens and dozens of times, but I want you to learn how to do this so that it's reliable when you use it in combat. So I want you to just reach out and touch. You can get really good. You can touch his chin. You can touch his nose. You can touch his thumb, or thumb on this hand. I can touch the inside of his elbow on either side. I can touch him here in the Adam's apple very easily. We all know how to point. That's the beauty of this type of thrust, that we all know how to point. So you just straighten your arm. So your fighting knife is here. You're just going to reach out and touch him. Straighten your arm, put the tip on the target you want to hit, like on his pec. That's a good place to start because it's a pretty big muscle and it gives him some padding. So put it on his pec, touch it, and now as you touch it, simultaneously bend your knee and shoot your weight forward like that. In reality, what it really looks like is something like this. When you match your push with the touch to where they're seamless, simultaneous, you touch it, and you touch it, and you give that push. And as you get better at this, you won't see two movements. It'll just be one motion, just this. That's all. Now, that's exactly how I want you to practice it. I want one person to be the target and the other person the attacker. And he's going to attack either side of the chest like that. As you grow in skill, you can also do it to the abdomen and any part on the body, but of course we want to stay away from the face. We don't want anything to do with coming close to the eyes for good protection there. But you can do the abdomen too. If you do this, again, it's not that comfortable, but it's got tremendous amount of power and it'll penetrate almost anything. Up to now, I've taught you how to use the point of your fighting knife in only straight thrusting attacks. But I don't want you to think that's the only way you can use your fighting knife is in straight stabbing attacks. Nothing could be further than the truth than that. You can use your fighting knife's point in hooking, looping, or arcing attacks. So you can hook with it, both forehand and backhand. You can loop with it, or you can arc it in. Just like that. This point can travel in every direction you can imagine, and you can deliver it with a lot of power with hooking, looping, or arcing attacks. I want to demonstrate each of these. I'm going to call Ron in, and I'm going to switch trainers. I'm going to show you a few examples. Just come on guard, Ron, and stand there. I can hook the point of my fighting knife into his hand, both forehand, or let's move this way a little bit. I can also backhand the point in and just hook it in or arc it in. So forehand or backhand. I can hook it into his leg. Either way. This way too. I can hook it as I go past him into his abdomen. Or I can go past him and hook it into his kidney. I can use my hooking attack with the point to bypass obstacles that are in my way. I can go around his guard and attack his head with a hooking motion. What you do when you're doing this is you're getting your blade past his peripheral vision. Try this. Put your hand in front of your face like this. Look straight ahead and move it out and watch it with your right eye. And it should start disappearing right about here, right about even with your temple. That's about, if you move it forward, you should still see just a vestige of your hand. That's the end of most people's peripheral vision. What you want to do with your fighting knife is get past this peripheral vision. You do that by hooking it in. I can come clear in here and hook it into his neck on either side and bypass that. So I can move around like this and stab him with that hooking motion very quickly. There I drove it into his neck. It doesn't feel very good. Ron's a tough guy, and he's enduring this, but it's not pleasant. That's why we put this mask on, okay? You can move to this side, just hold still, and hook this way, and go right around his arm and hook him in the kidney. Let's spin just like that, so everybody can see this. Just like that. You can hook in here and drive your point into the kidney. Lots and lots and lots of good ways that you can hook with your knife. You can also use looping motions. We're going to show this later in our overhead posture, but I can be here and still stab downward and a looping stabbing attack just like that. I can drive it at his face, I can drive it at his chest, I can drive it at his thigh, just like that. And you can change the direction, so it really can be confusing because you don't know how that point is going to loop. I can hit his hands on either side. I can hit that hand, his face, his shoulder. I can hit this back leg if I want to. You can loop your point in. You can also arc your point in. From here, I can arc down, put your hand a little bit in front, like that. I can arc it in, like this. I can arc it this way. I can arc it in that way. I can arc it in. So, all kinds of circular, arcing, looping attacks. You can also come from the bottom up. This is really important. Come on, guard. See his hand right here? If I position my knife a little bit low underneath his hand, I can arc up this way and stab the bottom of his hand, just like that. He has a hard time seeing that attack because his own hand is covering up my motion. What you do is you line your fighting knife up, and I like to look up at his face to make his attention come up. As his attention comes up, I might raise my hand and drop it and then stab, just like that, right underneath. If you miss, always pump again. We call that a double pump. If you miss it on the first time, you'll quite often get it on the second. Or you can alternate here and here. Go for his live hand. That's why I told you earlier, you don't want this live hand out here. It makes it easier for me to take. So, it's really important that you keep in your mind all the time that you don't have to use your knife in straight attacks when you're stabbing with the point. You don't have to do that all the time. You can also hook it, loop it, arc it in. Any circular looping, arcing motion that you can think of. You can be way out here, like that. A lot of times that confuses people because they're used to seeing more succinct attacks, more delineated attacks that are really nice and crisp. When you come outside the box and give them something they're not used to seeing, it freaks them out. And lots of times you get that. Now, and I'm going to show you how you can practice this at home. He's going to extend his arm. What I want you to do is come on guard, and I want you to practice hooking your tip in, forehand and backhand, right into that dot. Just practice like that, nice and slow. Then I want you to come up like this, from underneath, and I want you to start arcing it in. From the top, from the sides. Get used to doing that, just like this. Then as you get better, you can move around, and you can stab it that way, just like that. Just like that. So far, I've taught you how to use your fighting knife out of a forward or hammer grip, but you can also use it out of a reverse grip to stab with effectively too. You don't have as much range, but you have a lot of power. From an on-guard fighting stance, you can use it to peck with, like this, at his face or neck, just like that. You can also use it in a backhand pecking motion like that. I'm going pretty slow so you can see what I'm doing. If you use a little body English, you can come over here and peck kind of diagonally down like that. So you can use your tip pretty effectively at short range to peck away at your opponent. If he comes lower at your body, you can peck down here too. So it's pretty useful for light pecking motions in this grip. So reverse grip has some options. If you want to add power, you can go diagonally down, horizontally across, backhand across, backhand down. You can drop your butt and stab up this way with the reverse grip. This is useful when you feint high and bring somebody up and drop underneath and stab them right here in the crotch, just underneath the testicles and the perineum, between the anus and the testicles. And it goes right in there. It's a soft spot. Goes right into the nether regions of the body, and you bury the blade. There's no bone to get in the way. It's a really, really frighteningly effective stabbing attack that you can make with a reverse grip. So you can fight with the reverse grip out of your basic fighting stance. Remember, your range is really limited. Or if you want to add power, switch your leads, go left foot forward. Left foot forward, your feet turn to 1 o'clock, like this. Your rear heel comes up, your live hand pulls in tight to your left pec. Keep that elbow tucked in. Don't let it drift out and make a present to it to your enemy, because you'll cut that off. Keep it in here. Now, you can add even more power because you've got a better turn at your waist. You can put more of your body weight into your motion. You can stab down powerfully. You can stab down diagonally very powerfully. You can stab across very powerfully. Your backhand motions, like I said before, are weaker. Okay? Now I want to show this in action. Ron, I want you to take an on-guard fighting stance. Okay? I want to show you how you can attack now your training partner with your knife and reverse grip. Ron's got some pretty good protection on. I'm just going to show you how you peck away at his face like this. Just like that. Just like that. You can peck at his face. You can backhand in, you can forehand in, just like that. Just like that. So to get this forehand diagonal motion, you've got to lean your body a little bit to get the right angle to stab in. And you want to peck at his eyes if you can. That's a really good shot, or at his neck from here. Backhand, you want to get his hand out of the way and then come in. So just peck away at his eyes from here, just like that. Again, pecking at his neck is another good target. You can peck downward at his knife hand. Drop your hand a little bit. There you go. Downward at his knife hand, just like that. Or this one. So you come from here and here. Lots of times I'll peck this one, and I'll switch, and I'll go from here, here, just like that. Bang, bang, bang. So you get this one, the live hand, and stab him in the neck. 3 motions. You want to add more power, you have to add more commitment. I might want to drop and stab him right here on the inside of his thigh where his femoral artery is and pierce that. I might want to come up here and stab behind his clavicle and go in to get the subclavicle artery in there and pierce that so he bleeds out really quick. Get inside the collarbone with my blade and drive it down into his chest cavity. That's another good attack. I might want to lean here and stab it into his spleen on this side and penetrate that. I might want to get here and turn him and stab him in the back of the neck right there. Now you notice I switched leads there. I went from right foot forward, switched to get power, gathered myself, drove it in. While I'm here, I'm going to show the attacks to the back, right through the shoulder blades on either side, right through the kidney. Let's spin so they can see that, right through the kidneys on either side, right in the middle of his back into the spine. That will pierce his spinal column, and he'll drop when that spinal cord gets cut with that attack. You can always remember, hit the lungs by going through the shoulder blades, and here underneath this shoulder blade, you can stab into the heart. So when you want to add power with your reverse grip, and you're in your basic fighting stance, switch, and put your other leg forward. Now, see how I can turn, just like in boxing. If I was going to hit him with a straight shot, I got that power, bang. You put that same power in your reverse grip and drive him back, just like that. This one is pretty hard to practice at home, but here's how I want you to try to do it. Safety is first. I want you to extend your arm like this. And I want you to practice pecking at that. Backhand, forehand, upward, all different angles. Then I want you to proceed with more power, more power, more power, like that. And switch off so you get better and better at making contact in the area you desire with the tip of your knife, with your knife held in reverse grip. If you're going to get the most out of your fighting knife's point, it really helps to know where you can insert this and get the best results. You need to know the best targets for thrusting. Now, this subject, targets for thrusting, is kind of gruesome, and before I get started, I would just want to say that I'd like the viewers out there to use a lot of common sense. Don't go out and stab somebody in the guts because he called you some filthy name or smarted off, or don't go out there and stab somebody in the throat because he punched you in the nose. Listen, what we're going to show now is deadly force, how to kill people, how to maim them for life. You need to match your reactions to the situation. If you're attacked with hands and feet, defend yourself with hands and feet. But that doesn't mean that you have to take a beating and get kicked or beat to death by multiple opponents or great big opponents. When you're starting to lose consciousness and you can no longer defend yourself and there's no escape, always try to run away first. That's real self-defense, is leaving the area. But if you can't escape and you think you're going to go unconscious or you're going to be seriously hurt or killed, that's the time that you might start thinking about pulling out your knife and using thrusting attacks. So use some good common sense and stay out of prison, and only use your knife when you're sure that your life is in jeopardy and there's no escape. Now, with that said, I'm going to go into some of the targets for the point. Starting at the head, the forehead isn't much of a target, except if you cut up here by the hairline, or stab up in there, you can cause a lot of blood to sheet down over the face and cover the eyes. And that, it's pretty good, but that bone is pretty strong and you're not likely to penetrate into the brain with a stab in the forehead. The eyes, though, just below it, are very vulnerable. If you want to stop somebody's forward motion, you put your tip of your knife in a jab or a straight thrust anywhere in his eye socket, and he's not moving forward. He's going to recoil in horror because the eyes are very sensitive. If I go up and do this, just this, with my finger to your eye, or I go up there and just touch your eye like that with my finger, you're going to have a horrible reaction. Your eye is going to tear up. It's going to be shooting full of pain. You're going to really be in a mess. Just imagine what happens when I just do that in your eye. So one of the ways I like to attack the eyes is get my tip just underneath the eye and let it follow the bone and slide in underneath the eye socket right into the eyeball. But any stabbing attack around this eye socket is going to be really effective. It's going to make his head snap back. When his head snaps back, he can't see your lower attacking lines. So you get his head to rock back with the eye attack. You can go from here, drop right here and stab him in the throat, or you can rock him and stab him in soft areas on his body. Get his head to rock back. One of the best ways to do that with your knife is stick him in the eye. The other good target for your point is the front of the throat. Anywhere here in the front of the throat, you stick your tip and push in 2 inches, and you've pretty much taken him out. It's a mortal wound. From the side, you've got the carotid arteries and the jugular vein. The carotid arteries, let's spin right here, or right here underneath the ear, like this. I like to stab these things and hook my knife blade in to attack in here. Always try to transfix. If this was the knife blade, shove your knife all the way through till the point breaks out the other side. If you have a double-edged knife, just pull out like that and open up the whole throat. But always stab and all the way through his neck and transfix the neck from one end to the other. If you're going to stab him here in the front of the throat, you want your point to come out here in the back if you can. You want to get full penetration of that neck. Another good target from the front is the subclavian arteries inside the collarbones here. The collarbones are pretty easily broken. It only takes about 16 pounds of pressure with a hammer fist right there to break that collarbone. But when Ron has his hands up, it's pretty hard to get that in there. But with a knife, which a lot of times is you arc your blade in here, inside that collarbone, there's nothing there. If you get your blade inside that collarbone, there's nothing impeding the progress of your knife blade but mush. It goes past the skin and dips right into the chest cavity. A really good place to stick the knife. Now, you police officers that are wearing a vest, you need to be particularly aware of the fact that you have an opening all the way around here that someone can insert their knife in. A vest doesn't give you much protection against the thrust anyway. It's got a lot more protection against slashing attacks than it does thrusting. But you should be aware of that. There's no protection right here. From the front of the body, you have the lungs here on either side of the sternum. Like I said earlier, with a good straight thrust, you'll split these ribs and enter the lungs with your blade and collapse the lung. So that's a good place to stab. The sternum is pretty hard and bony, and it offers a lot of resistance to your point. I'm not saying that a powerful thrust won't go through the sternum. It will, but a lesser thrust, or one that isn't perfectly placed, may slip off or slide off, and you might not get through. The heart is just a little bit here to the left of the sternum and a little bit down. That's a good place to stab. It is protected, though, by the rib cage, so you need to stab hard to get through the rib cage into the heart. Another way to reach the heart that the Sikhs use with their curved knife they call a kirpan is to stab underneath the rib cage upward like this. Your knife enters the chest cavity at an angle, just like that. So it comes underneath the ribs, angles up, splits the diaphragm, and goes into the heart from beneath. On this side here, you have a spleen. The spleen is a reservoir of blood. You hook your blade and drive your point in like that into the spleen, and you can do a tremendous amount of damage internally, and it's going to bust his will to fight. On this side, we have the liver right in here. This is a great place when you're boxing to drive that hook or that shovel hook into. You see, when people drop with a body shot suddenly like that and don't get up, it's because it's usually they took a hook to the liver there. It's the same thing with your knife. If you're in your fighting stance and you move this way and you drive your blade into that liver, what a shock. It can be a mortal wound. The liver is a really essential organ in your body, and it's really vulnerable to the knife. Now, you have the lower abdomen. The lower abdomen is just spaghetti in there. I mean, those intestines and everything are just spaghetti. Once you get past the shirt and the skin, your blade glides in there very, very easily. For best results, you always want to rock your blade inside or turn it and rotate it to widen that wound. If I have a double-edged blade, and I stab in the chest here like this, the first thing I'm going to do, if I can, if I have enough time, is I'm going to rotate my handle so that that blade inside the chest cavity goes like this and widens the wound. So keep that in mind when you're stabbing. You want to widen the wound. Sometimes, though, your opponent's too alert or has too much fight, and you get this, and you have to get out again because you can't stay there with any safety. But If Ron's on guard and I beat his knife out of his hand and I stab him in the chest and I stab him in the abdomen, I've got more time. You don't always have that option. Moving down from the abdomen, we have the bladder and the groin. I like to attack the groin in an upward direction, this way. I showed in the reverse grip, you can stab this way, also and attack the groin. On the inside of the legs, right here, we have the femoral artery right in there, okay? A lot of the times, I like to hook this in, just like this, and try to attack that way. What you do, if you cut that, he's going to bleed out pretty quickly. If he can't get there and get to the hospital and get that clamped off really quick, he's going to bleed out very shortly. A lot of blood comes down to supply the leg off those femoral arteries. The front of the thighs, not that great of a place to stab people. The muscles run across like this, mostly up and down in your leg. If you stab somebody in the leg, you may separate those muscles and cause them some pain, but you're not going to incapacitate them if they're a tough guy. Not like in the movies. They can still move around and put weight on that leg. So there's limited use in stabbing the muscles of the leg. Come on guard for a second. Now, I showed earlier, I like to stab the inside of the knee, just like that, and drive the tip of your knife into that knee. What quite often happens is, when you do this with power, you just knock him down and knock him right off his feet when you stab that. I took a little bit of power out of that thing because it doesn't feel great, even with this trainer, to stab the inside of the knee. Again, the targets lower than that aren't that vulnerable. If from the back you can stab, and we're going to get to that, I'll show you where you can stab them in the back of the leg. One thing you might try to do, though, is if you see your opponent's attention is high, you can drop underneath and just drop your body weight and stab him right through the foot and break those small bones and the top of his foot and go right through his foot. This will really incapacitate a lot of people. There are no good one-legged knife fighters. There just isn't. So anything you can do to break down his capacity to move is a good thing. Let's move around to the back. From the back, you've got the base of the cerebellum right here. You take your point, put it right here, and push. Bang. Goes right through the spinal cord, cuts the spinal cord right there, and he drops. Goes right here where the spinal cord goes up into the brain, right there, the base of the cerebellum. Okay? You have the spine all running down the center of the back. You can attack that with stabbing attacks, especially from the reverse grip. If you want to come up and do this, you'll drive that just like a push Ron forward, and I'm not even hitting that hard. You'll drive that thing, and that point, if the blade's long enough, will come out his chest. You got tremendous power there. That's a good place to stab. On either side of the shoulder blade, we touched on that earlier. The lungs are just opposite those shoulder blades. You can reach them by penetrating those shoulder blades. The kidneys, just above the belt line, to either side, about 2 inches either side of the spine, are the kidneys. Those are really vulnerable to stabbing attacks. Very painful place to stab somebody. You come up and stab somebody in the kidney like that, you can almost give them a heart attack from the pain. It's that bad. It can be a very painful place to be stabbed. Stabbing people in the butt isn't that effective in that it's not a mortal wound usually, but it can impede his ability to move somewhat, and that wound is really hard to close because he can't walk without opening it. But it's even more vulnerable to a cutting attack. Stabbing the back of the legs, the hamstring, if you hit it just perfectly, is all right, and the Achilles tendon is a good spot, but they're very small targets. It's easy to miss them. So stabbing the back of the legs I don't think is that super effective. Now, the arms, from the front, come on guard. Stabbing the hands is always a flippin' good idea to do, always. You can break these fingers with just a slight amount of pressure. Just a speed jab like that, and I'm back out again, will cut off fingers like little chunks of butter. Just moving like this and taking the tip of my knife and hitting them in the back of the hand, breaking those metacarpals right there, can really degrade his ability to fight. So stabbing the hands is always a good thing. Coming here and stabbing the thumb, let's switch. Just switch all the way around. Stabbing that thumb is always a good thing. Anytime you can arc down or arc your blade in and stab that thumb, it's really good. Or bring your hand, or rather your knife, up from the bottom and stab him here on the fingers or on this fleshy pad here. Drive your point up into that. He's going to be hating that. It's going to degrade his ability to fight. Any stab into the elbows is good, or into the bicep or forearm. All those muscles, and we're going to get into more in this in cutting, all the muscles and tendons that keep his hand closed are on the inside of his arm. Any stabbing attacks there are good, or into the bicep. Quite often, I get a stabbing attack into the point of the shoulder right here, right where your rotator cuff is. When he cuts number one in a big movement, I'll get him with a stop hit right there. You can see him recoil just then, just from the pressure of this foam trainer. It doesn't feel good. It tends to rest forward motion when you hit it right. So that's a good spot to hit the arms in. There you have the basic points on the body that are vulnerable to a stabbing attack. Memorize those and practice them. You want to practice them gently with your trainer. One person's going to come on guard, and the other person is going to come around and pick off some of these spots until he gets used to doing it. Try that at home. One of the best ways to increase your ability in using the point of your fighting knife is to practice stabbing drills. What I want you to do is you work on drills that increase your eye-hand coordination. I want to show you a drill that we use here at Cold Steel that's been very helpful in helping our students improve their ability with the point of their fighting knife. What we have here is some wiffle balls. Starting at this end, they're the size of a medium-sized orange, then going down to about apple size, and then going down to about the size of a cherry tomato. And we just have them on some string here under a little bit of tension. Now, your fist is actually about the same size as this wiffle ball right here. So when you can hit this pretty reliably, you're on target because you're hitting the fist holding your opponent's fighting knife. If you can stab that reliably when he's moving it in motion, you're doing pretty darn good. As you move down to smaller targets, it takes more skill. I want you to make a frame. It doesn't have to be fancy. We use PVC pipe and some concrete bases that you can get at a box store and made our own. You can also hang these wiffle balls from your raised garage door. I practiced that way for years at home. So you can improvise this, but what I want you to do is get used to stabbing small targets with the tip of your fighting knife. So take your trainer and come on guard and stab these balls, just like that. And you're going to go from one end to the other. And you're going to stab, 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 just like that. And practice that. In our class, we form lines, and we have multiple of these, and we all go through practice stabbing them in motion, just like that. Try that at home. I think it'll really increase your ability to hit the target you want with the tip of your fighting knife. Continuing on with the offensive use of our fighting knife's blade, I want to teach now the slash. Now, with the slash, all you're using is the portion of the edge from the tip about 2 inches down the blade. That's all. Because the slash isn't a real powerful motion. It's like the jab with the point. All we're trying to do is injure a little bit to a degree. We're just trying to create a wound that will distract and frighten our enemy and start to degrade his ability to fight. To execute a slash, come on guard in your fighting stance. Extend your knife hand. As you extend your knife hand, you make contact with your opponent's body and pull through and pull the butt back towards yourself. It's a real quick, light motion. There isn't a whole lot of body weight transport. It's mostly from your arm, just like the jab. You're going to come out here and give a little slash and come back. Now I'm going to go slow. You extend your arm, make contact with this portion right here, the front portion of your edge nearest the tip. Pull that through the target and pull the butt back towards yourself. Now in any cutting motion that you make with a fighting knife, the butt always is pulled back towards your body. I don't care if it's coming diagonal or it's coming upward. I don't care if it's coming horizontal or backhand. the butt is pulled back towards the body. That pulls the edge through the target. Every single cutting motion you're ever going to make with your knife's edge, the butt is always going to be pulled back towards the body. So keep that in mind. Now I'm going to call Ron out here, and I'm going to demonstrate the slash. Ron's just going to come on guard. And what I'm going to do is, you're going to pretend right here is the edge of my fighting knife. I'm just going to slash his fingers and get out. I'm going to lean in, slash his fingers, and come out. I'm going to come underneath, slash his forearm, and come out. I'm going to feint him high, slash his leg, and come back out. I'm going to come to this side, slash his face, and come back out. What I did is I come in here, I extend my arm, put the tip, that edge near the tip, on my target, pull, and pull the butt back towards myself. Same thing with his fingers. I come in here and come back out. Just a light cutting motion. Nothing heavy, not a lot of power. All I'm trying to do is cut a finger off or two. All I'm trying to do is lay his cheek and lip open. All I'm trying to do is open up his gut pile. Just to split the skin and get through the muscle wall and get out. Maybe that intestine starts to peep out a little bit. That's really going to scare him. Get some blood going. Just get it on his forearm and get out. That's the slash. Here's how you train it. One person's going to stand here like this, with his knife hand extended, where the tip isn't any higher than his shoulder, just like that. The other person is going to come in here from his fighting stance. Now remember, you're just using the front part of your edge, right up here near the point, and he's going to slash, just like this. Reach out and go slow at first and get a feeling for that forehand slash. Now, depending on the type of knife you're using, you may have to move your wrist, twist your wrist to get that edge to line up with the target. So I might have to twist my wrist to get that edge on, but get it on and pull it back. Try it forehand and try it backhand. Try it backhand. Remember, get the edge on, pull your butt back towards your body. Get your edge on and come out. Forehand and backhand. You can also try it this way. One person holds it like that, and you come underneath and slash up this way. Again, you're going to have to use a little body English here to get the correct orientation of your edge. I bend my knees, turn my wrist so my edge lines up, make contact, and pull back. So I come in here, extend my arm, make contact, pull. It's a quick motion, just like a jab is. It's the same thing with a slash. I'm in and I'm out. Your arm doesn't want to be sticking out here for any length of time. You don't want to give him an opportunity to countercut you. So it's a real quick darting motion. You can come from the top, same thing. Come over, drop your tip, engage that edge, pull it back towards your body. That's how you slash. A cutting attack with a knife is very similar to a slashing attack. The main difference is the amount of edge you use and the power that you put in the stroke. When I was teaching you how to use a slash, I didn't want you to use a lot of power. I want you to concentrate on speed and just using the first part of the edge of your knife. When you cut somebody with a knife, I want you to get as much of the blade edge as possible onto the target, and I want you to use a lot more power. When we're slashing, it's like this, a real quick motion. When we're cutting somebody, we're going to use a lot more power. See my body lean into it? I'm going to put weight into that stroke. I'm going to try to engage the target with my blade right about here. Ideal would be get clear back here to the choil and run the entire 7 inches of the blade across their flesh. But in reality, you'll seldom get that kind of accuracy in a slashing attack, especially when people are moving. If you can get 2/3 of your edge, if you can get 2/3 of the way down the blade, get that as your starting point on your target, you're doing really well, and you're going to get a really effective cut. So try to get your blade to start. Look at my thumb right here, just like that. That's what you're going to pull through, that entire part of the edge. If I was going to cut somebody's abdomen, I'm going to look at that target. I'm going to push my arm forward. As I engage that, I'm going to press in, and I'm going to pull through and pull that butt back. So it's like this. There's a lot of commitment and force in a cutting attack compared to a slashing attack. What your goal in a cutting attack is if possible, to dismember and to open up the body cavity, to open up the arms, to open up the legs, to open up that entire leg and make that muscle flap, to open up that bicep and let it flop open, okay? You want to destroy muscle groups and vital organs with your cutting attack versus just injuring to a small degree with a slashing attack. I'm going to call Ron out here and demonstrate. Come on, guard, Ron. When I slashed, it's like this. When I cut, it's like this, like this. I'll lean in here and cut him like this. So a slash is light, like this, and back out. A cut is this. See that? Like that. I might come all the way across his body, all the way across his body like that. That's the difference. You're going to come in here, engage his neck, and cut it. When you pull back, his head should flop because cut through all the muscles and tendons of his neck and all the pipes. His head's flopping over there. It's half cut off with one good cutting attack. That's what you should be trying to get. Now, to train this, I want one person to stand like this, just like with the slash. The first thing I want you to do is get in your fighting stance, and I want you to extend your arm. Now, try to make contact just above your fist here, so you're getting all of your edge through that target. Put your edge on his trainer and pull through. Put your edge on his trainer and pull through. Now, try it with a little bit more power. A little bit more power. Forehand and backhand. Backhand, forehand, backhand. So if you get an opportunity to slash him across the knee like that, or rather cut him across the knee, hey, the back of his leg, he flops because you cut all those muscles and tendons there. It's a lot different than a slash. Here, we're just trying to get a finger. Here, when I cut him, I'm trying to destroy that hand. I want to cut the fingers off, get the thumb, cut across into the palm, totally destroy that hand. Same thing here. I can slash his face, or I can cut his face. Big difference. So you want to practice this. Forehand and backhand. Same thing. You want to practice it down and up. Just like the slash, when you're coming up, you have to turn your wrist to orientate the edge properly. Get that edge on there and pull out. Get the edge on there and pull through. Practice it like that a lot. When you use the edge of a big fighting knife like this Trailmaster Bowie in a chopping attack, you can end the fight in one motion. A chopping stroke has a tremendous amount of power. It can shear through an arm or a leg very easily if you've got a well-made, very sharp knife. The big difference between a chopping attack and a cutting or slashing attack is that when you chop, you don't bring the butt of the knife back towards you, you push it away from you. Every time you chop, the butt of the knife goes away from your body. It doesn't return or it doesn't be pulled back in towards your body. It always goes away. When we're cutting, we're pulling the edge through something. When I'm slashing, I'm pulling the edge through. When I'm chopping, I'm pushing. I'm not pulling, I'm going to push that edge through. I'm going to drive it right through. I'm going to sever. I'm going to shear with that edge. My idea is to shear his arm off with the stroke, to shear his leg off with the stroke, to shear right through his neck with that chopping stroke so his head flops off. That's the idea with the chopping stroke. To execute a chopping stroke, get in your basic fighting stance. Imagine your opponent's extended arm is right in front of you. All you're going to do is you're going to drop your body. As you drop your body, you're going to snap your arm down and through the target. You want to make contact with about the middle of the blade, or maybe just a little bit closer to the guard than the middle, maybe right in here. So a little bit of your blade, if possible, overhangs the target so that you're certain that you're going to get all of the edge that makes contact all the way through that target, so it shears it right off. So try to get, if I'm going to cut an arm off, I want to land right about here, just like that. Imagine that arm there. You're in your fighting stance. You see that? Bang! You're going to drop on it, just like that. You get a lot of your power in your chopping stroke from dropping your butt and getting your body weight in sync with your hand motion, so it goes simultaneously. The best way for me to do this is to get rid of this trainer and get a foam one. Pretend that's your opponent's hand. I see my opening and I drop. I see my opening and I drop. What I want to do is shear right through that. This isn't a mamby-pamby motion here. You're using power. A chopping attack, when I see that, I'm committed. Your recovery is a little slower than in a slashing or a cutting attack, so you have to have a good opening. You have to have enough time to make this move count, but it's devastating. If I come in here and I chop his leg like that with a Bowie knife, like a Trailmaster or a Laredo Bowie, he's going to hit the ground. This leg's going to buckle. I just cut his leg off. If I see an opportunity to come in here and chop his hand, or come in here and chop through his hand like that, I'm going to split all those fingers off and hit the handle of his knife with that stroke. If I see an opening to come in here and chop into the side of his neck like that with a Bowie knife or a kukri, hey, there's nothing here, folks. In the side of the neck here, you have some muscle here, you got the collarbone. That's it. Over here, you have that thin shoulder blade. A Bowie knife or a kukri will go into that juncture right here and slide clear into the middle of the chest, maybe out the other side. A chopping stroke is really, really deadly, but it's a committed motion. So you need to practice it, and you have to have a good opportunity. Here's how I want you to practice that chop at home. One person is going to be the target. He's going to stand here like this. The other person is going to practice his chopping. Now, for safety's sake, I want you to try to hit out here near the tip. Don't hit your training partner on the thumb with this stroke. It hurts like belly hell. You're not going to enjoy that, and he's going to enjoy it a lot less if you smack him there. So try to keep out on closer to the edge over here and not close to the hand when you practice this. What I want you to do, get in your fighting stance, look at your target, and drop, just like that. Drop, drop, drop. The power in chopping comes from that dropping of your body weight. It's not from muscle, it's from body weight transfer. It drops like that. Now, I'm not hitting particularly hard with my arm, but Ron can tell you he can feel that all the way up and down his arm from that stroke. It's a very, very powerful stroke. You can chop downward like this. You can chop diagonally. You can chop horizontally. The main thing is your knife always moves away from your body. You keep in mind that you're trying to shear through the target, not pull the edge through it, but penetrate, shear, cleave it in half. That's your goal. You want to cleave something when you chop. So practice it like this until you're getting your arm motion and the drop of your butt happening almost simultaneously. So your weight is in your chopping stroke. Try that at home and be careful. Don't smack your training partners in the hand. It hurts a lot. But it's well worth practicing and taking some discomfort for, because it's a really useful cutting stroke to have in your arsenal. If you ever find yourself fighting at extreme close quarters, it will really behoove you to know how to use the edge of your fighting knife in a hacking attack. The main difference between a hacking attack and a chopping attack is we substitute speed and repetition for power. When you chop somebody, you're using a lot of power, and you're dropping your body weight behind the stroke, and you're shearing through. When you use your knife in a hacking motion, what you're doing is you're picking a target and you're hitting it in the same place repetitively. So if I want to hack somebody's arm off, I pick a spot on their arm. I might not have much room to move my knife, but I hit the same spot again and again and again. And it could be really short motions like this, or longer motions like that. But you seldom in a hacking attack have the luxury of being able to drop your body weight into it. Also, that's such a committed motion, you lose your repetition. So the long suit of a hacking attack is it doesn't need a lot of space to work in, and all you do is hit the same spot again and again and again, and widen and deepen that wound channel. You hit the hand, you hit the same spot again, maybe the fourth hack, the hand falls off. I'm going to substitute for a softer trainer now and demonstrate this. First, I'm going to show you how you can train at home, and then I'm going to demonstrate it on Ron and Sergio. Just hold your arm out there like we did before. On a hacking attack, just wait for a second, Sergio. In a hacking attack, you're going to train similar than we did with a chopping attack. You're going to come on guard, you're going to look at your target, and you're going to hit it like that. Let's hold that up a little higher and give me as stiff as you can. Just like that. You're going to use repetition and speed. Look at the target, strike it with your edge, retract, strike it with your edge, strike it with your edge, strike it with your edge. Don't pull through. You're shearing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just like that. Pick the spot and cut through it. Against Ron's arm, if I want to cut that arm off, I pick a spot. 1, 2, 3, off comes the arm. Same thing the bicep. 1, 2, 3. I can hack at extremely close range. I'm tied up here, 1, 2, 3. I can hack into his face, bang, bang, bang. I can hack into the side of his face. I can hack on his neck. I can hack on his leg, just like that. Let me show what happens when you get tied up at close quarters. If you get rushed by multiple opponents, knowing how to hack with the edge of your fighting knife is a really good thing to have in your arsenal. I'm going to show you what I mean. The first thing you want to do is you want to break your knife hand free. The way you do that is they can't hold your body weight. So step and break one arm free like this. Now I'm going to hack on Ron's shin like that until he starts to move that. Now I'm going to hack on his leg. Now I'm going to hack on his arm so that comes off. If Sergio's still there, I'm going to probably knee him and let him have it, just like that. You use the hacking attack at close quarters when you have no room to use a more effective cutting stroke. Sure, I'd rather drop and cut their legs off with one stroke, but when you're tied up, you don't have a lot of room. Use speed and repetition to drive your edge through their limbs. One of the most useful cutting attacks a knife fighter can have in his repertoire is the snap cut. The snap cut is a non-committed cutting motion where you can damage your opponent at long range, get in, get out, and minimum amount of speed, minimum amount of fuss, maximum amount of damage. It's really, really useful. You're going to use the snap cut all the time when you're fighting. It'll be used just like you use the jab with the point. You're going to snap cut all the time. It's used just like the jab to harass your opponent, to interrupt his mindset, to drive him where you want to go, and to fend him off. When I back up and I can keep my jab out in front of me to fend off an opponent, the same way I can back up and snap cut to keep somebody off me. It's a really, really useful cutting attack. To execute the snap cut, come in your fighting stance, and you're going to extend your arm about 2/3 of the way out. When your arm's 2/3 of the way extended, you're going to snap your wrist down and drive the tip of your fighting knife into the target and retract your arm. So you're going to come out, snap down, and come back, just like that. And you're going to snap the tip down. Now, the tanto that I developed in 1980 is really well suited for the snap cut because of the secondary point. A lot of people don't realize that's why we put this point configuration on the knife like this, because right here, where you see the tip of my little finger, we call that a secondary point. You could snap that secondary point right into the target, and it makes a wound way out of proportion to what you think would occur. It makes a horrific wound with that secondary point. When it hits flesh, it just opens it up in a V shape. It's horrendous. Really useful to have. A snap cut can bust the bones in the hand. It can open up the bicep and damage it, open up all the major muscle groups. Really good thing to have. You use it just like a cat uses his paw. A lot of you have seen a cat play with a ball of yarn. And he kind of gets his paw out here like this and he bats at it like that. Just with the end of his paw, just bats at it. It's the same thing with a snap cut. You're going to be out here like this, you're moving around, you can extend your arm out. I'm going to go kind of slow so you can follow me. I'm going to extend my arm. See how you lean a little bit? You lean into it just a little bit. It's not so much power. You're not putting a lot of power in this, but you're going to lean in forward a little bit. Rock forward, bend your knees, extend your arm. When it's about 2/3 of the way extended towards the target, you're going to snap your wrist down, drive that secondary point or the edge of your blade nearest the tip, that first inch of the edge. Drive that into the target and retract your arm. Now, you want to do this in a quick darting manner. You don't want your arm left out there for very long because you don't want your opponent to have a good opportunity to countercut you. So it's out there and it's back. It's out there and it's back. You snap cut somebody, snap cut them, and it comes right back immediately. I'm going to get rid of this blade and go to a less dangerous trainer. Ron, come on, guard. I can use my snap cut here to tack his hand, just like that. Tack the thumb, tack this side of the hand. You can use your snap cut vertically down. You can use it horizontal. You can backhand with it. So I can turn my body like this. You're going to use a little body English to line up your blade and snap cut and cut off his fingers like that. I can also, let's spin. I can move to this side of Ron. And as I move, again, I like to angle my body. So I kind of turn like this and turn my wrist over and snap cut just like that. quickly breaking the metacarpals in the back of his hand, moving out of range very quickly. I can snap cut his forearm here, just like that. Snap the blade down, hit that muscle group, split it open, and leave. I can snap cut his face, just like that. Reach in, snap cut, hit him right in the eye, pow, and back out. Hey, can you imagine what's going to happen when that tanto point hits you in the eye like that? It's going to split the whole thing open. Here's another good use for the snap cut. We're going to talk about this later in strategy, but I use it a lot on the top of people's head. Quite often when I'm fighting, I'll come in here and I'll move on people's hands a little bit. And I'll want them to think that's the target. And then I'll come up the top of their head, right here, and snap cut, right on the scalp. You take a tanto and you hit somebody right here on the top of their scalp there like that and split that skull open. Blood is going to piss down their face like a river. Just going to sheet his face with blood. It's going to scare the crap out of him. It's not a mortal wound, but the scalp bleeds like crazy. So that's another really good target for the snap cut, is just above the forehead here, right there on the scalp. Drive that in and get out. It's very easy to get that blow. You can also set it up by going low. You can make him think that your target is low, and like that. When you see his knees bend, you react and come above him, snap cut him that way. Here's a way to train it. I want you to come on guard. You just pretend Ron's your training partner. One of you get like this, get your foam trainers. I want you to try to hit the red end of his trainer, the tip. Stay away from his thumb and fingers if you can. Come on guard. Extend your arm part way, about 2/3 out. When you're 2/3 out, snap down and retract. Like that, like that, like that. I'm going kind of slow so you can follow me. You don't bring power. This is not a chopping stroke, okay? This is a snap cut. All we're going to do, extend our arm, snap our wrist down. You're going to let the blade, that's the beauty of knife fighting. We talked about this earlier. The blade does all the bloody work. You don't have to bring that much power. That sharp edge, that unyielding steel does the work for you. So all you do is you extend your arm, snap your wrist down, drive that sharpened edge near the tip into your target and come back out. See how that's a quick darting movement? Just like that. That's how I want you to practice it. Now, for variation, you're going to have to switch to this type of grip. Your partner's going to have to feed you this angle. Put it up vertical like that. What I want you to do is I want you to lean your body. Sometimes you'll take a little bit of step to the side. Remember I talked about in footwork how you have to use diagonal movement both forward and backwards, whether it's an offense or defense. Here's a prime example. I want to move off to the side. I'm going to tilt my pelvis a little bit and drop my shoulder and snap cut this way, forehand to the side. Same thing when I go to the other side. I want a backhand. I'm going to move a little bit this way, tilt my body over, and snap cut. Practice that. You can snap cut down, and you can actually snap cut as you're leaving this way, that way. A lot of times, come on guard, Ron, I'll be here, and I'll cut him as I'm moving away. I'll be here, and I'll move backwards and snap cut. So it doesn't always have to be vertically or horizontal. It can also come from the bottom up. It can rise that way. Practice with it. Experiment with it. But make it your own. Become an expert at the snap cut. You won't be sorry. In my experience, one of the hardest cutting attacks to learn how to do is the vertical whip. But it's so useful that I'm going to go all out to try to make you understand how to properly execute this cutting attack. The vertical whip can be used like the speed jab and the snap cut to drive your opponent into the position you want and to hold them off. When your opponent's being really aggressive, you can retreat behind a series of vertical whips and put up a wall of steel that he has to go through to reach you. It can be very disconcerting for someone rushing you to all of a sudden face this. Very disconcerting. It makes him reconsider. Whoa, I don't know if I want to go there or not. So I want you to know how to execute the vertical whip and to get really good at it. The way I'm going to teach it, I want you to come in your basic fighting stance. I want you to pretend your opponent's right in front of you and his arm is extended. That's your target. What you're going to do is you're going to extend your knife arm out like this. You're going to make contact, cut through his arm, and withdraw your blade back to start your vertical whip again. Normally, you execute the vertical whip in multiples. I usually just don't whip once. It's usually 2 or 3 times in a row that I'll execute a vertical whip. It works well when done in multiples. So to show that again, your knife hand, it usually folds back just a little bit towards your body before you start. It's very seldom, and it's hard to execute from here. It's usually better to start it right about here. See how my blade is pointing away like this, diagonally in front of my body, just about like this. So you're going to extend out, cut through your opponent, and return. Now watch my wrist. As I cut through the target, my wrist starts to turn and my elbow bends. See how my arm bends like this and the point is pointing this way? And it comes back like this and it recovers. So the motion looks like this. The other element that you should know about the vertical whip is the vertical whip takes up space. It cuts a path like this, a diagonal path in front of you, and it takes up space. Anything entering that path in front of you is going to get cut. So that's really important. The vertical whip is an occupier. It occupies all the space in front of you. It cuts an elliptical path like this too. Just like this. This is what I'm exaggerating this, but that's the motion. It doesn't go straight like this. It cuts diagonally across and occupies space. So when you do it, you want to make sure that your blade is moving. Right now, my blade is starting to intercept anything in front of me, all the way out here till it starts to descend, makes contact with the target, cuts through the target, and starts to return. Now, you always want to make your motion elliptical like this because it's harder for your opponent to track and countercut you. So you see, what happens is your knife comes out, drops, and retracts. Comes out, drops, cuts through, and retracts. It drops, so now he has a harder time tracking that motion than if it's a slow, straight motion. It's easier for him to key to that and pick that up than that vertical whip. Now I'm going to have Ron come in here, and I'm going to demonstrate this some more. To execute this vertical whip, I'm going to move around a little bit. I see an opening, and I'm going to cut, just like that. I see him, and I'm going to cut. I see him, I'm going to cut twice like that. My arm comes out, drops on the target, cuts through, my wrist starts to turn, my elbow bends, comes back, and I recover. Now, on your recovery, sometimes you might want to take your thumb and just bounce it off your stomach, like this. That's one of the things that happens to keep the blade away from you. You can bounce here and keep that blade. You don't want to come back and stick your own knife in you. So you need to be careful with that vertical whip and keep it in a safe spot. So your knife comes out, occupies this space, cuts this path diagonally across, lands on the target, cuts through, and returns, like that. Again, you can use it to drive somebody back, or if he enters, I can hold him off with it also. Very, very useful. Here's a way to train it. This is your training partner at home. He's got his trainer extended. You're going to aim at the little red stabbing tip. Come on guard. Extend your arm. Drop and cut. Cut through. As you start to retract now, just as you come off his trainer, as you start to retract, your points start to turn. This elbow here is going to bend. Starts to bend, and you come back and get ready to start again. So you get this motion like this. All right? Now, you want to be careful that you don't leave your arm out here exposed very long. We're going to get to show you that later. You don't want to show a lot of this to your opponent. It's better if you can shorten this. So he doesn't see all of this, he just sees a part. This part here, like that. Not a flat forearm across here. I want to see less of my forearm. Show him as little of your forearm as possible. So it's really hard for him to pick off and countercut you. That's another good trick. But you're going to need to practice this vertical whip. Now, you can do it from your backhand side, like I'm doing right now, or you can vertical whip forehand. It's a little bit more dangerous to yourself because you can pull it back into your own face. But you can also vertical whip this way. So the way you set that up is you bend your knees, and that gets your knife to drop. You extend your knife, you've got to turn your wrist to orientate your edge correctly, get your edge on there and pull through, just like this. So it's a circular motion. 1, 2, 1, 2, just like that. 2 different ways you can do it. You want to just put that down, Ron? I could vertical whip this way or this way. I prefer a backhand motion like this, but sometimes you'll confuse your opponent by switching and come underneath. Lots of times, come on guard, I'll come this way, like this, like that, and whip that way. That's a confusion technique and a change-up. So practice them both ways, but be careful, don't hit each other in the face, but practice hard. The final cutting motion or attack I'm going to teach you today is sawing. Sawing is a really useful thing to know how to do with your knife's edge. Especially, I like it with a double edge because it gives you twice as many options. What you're going to do with sawing is you're going to disentangle yourself from opponents at close quarters that are grappling with you and trying to subdue you, or even if they've taken you to the ground. You saw with the edge when you can't do anything else. It's a motion that you use when you have very, very little space to operate in. I'm going to have Ron come out here, and I'm going to demonstrate what sawing is. Let's say Ron grabs my arm. And imagine now that I have very, very little space to work with. I get in here like this. Let's spin so the cameras can see us, Ron. We spin like this, and I may just use my shoulder like that with the edge. And I start sawing. You put the edge in one place, keep it in that same spot, and rapidly saw the edge back and forth, just like you would with a wood saw. And you're going to use that edge very quickly. If you can't use your arm, you can even saw with your shoulder right from here. Now this is a blunt trainer. You can see Ron's arm motion. That didn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be sawing on. With a razor sharp knife, or even worse, a serrated edge, oh, it's really effective. So you can use a sawing attack with your edge when you can't do anything else. When you have no room for any type of cutting attack or any type of stabbing attack, you can almost always saw. And when you have a double-edged knife, it's really helpful because you can saw in any direction. Now I'm going to have the rest of our crew come in and attack me, and I'm going to show you how you use sawing against multiple attackers. The first thing is you're going to have to lower your body weight and saw here. That's going to come off. That's going to come off. That's going to come off. And that's going to come off. Now pretty soon, no one wants to be there and be sawed on. Happens pretty quickly. Now, this is a dull trainer, and it hurt these guys, and these are tough guys. They didn't like being there, being sawed on. If you've got a taipan, a razor-sharp double-edged knife, and you start sawing with people, they're going to come off you like you were red hot, heated to 300 degrees. You were hot oil. They want to get away from you. They don't want to get splattered. Now I'd like to discuss the targets that are most vulnerable to your fighting knife's edge. I'm going to have Ron come over here. Ron, you want to stand right here and just come on guard. One of my favorite targets with the edge is the face. We have a saying in our knife fighting program that says, when in doubt, cut and stab the face. The Romans had 2 major targets for their short sword, their gladius, the face and the abdomen. When you cut somebody across the face, just drop that down a little bit. When I cut somebody across the face like that, diagonally across the face, it just totally wrecks their life. I mean, every morning what we do when we get up and we take a shower, we look in the mirror and we shave and we comb our hair and we brush our teeth. We look at ourselves in the mirror all the time. We're all concerned about how we look. When I take that fighting knife and draw that thing across his face, he's going to be a ruin the rest of his life. No one wants to be cut in the face. So it's very disconcerting to cut somebody across the face. I like to make this stroke diagonally. Starting here at the forehead, I cut across the eye socket, cut through the nose, come off the mouth, and quite often you'll get part of the shoulder as you come off. Now, this isn't usually a mortal wound, but it's a horribly disabling, disfiguring wound. And you need to use this judiciously. Don't come in and take your fighting knife and cut somebody or slash them across the face unless your life is in danger, because you got a good chance of blinding them. You're going to scar them horrifically. You're going to probably cut through the nose. You're going to cut through their lips and through their gums. You might knock some teeth out. You're going to cut across here the chin, and you're going to cut across usually their shoulder. So it's a very disfiguring thing to do, and you have to make sure that you're in the right when you use this type of motion or cutting motion. You don't want to cut that face unless your life is in danger, all right? So you can cut the face either diagonally forehand or backhand. You can cut across the face on the cheeks, which is a favorite saber cut. But I like to cut diagonally whenever possible. A lot of times you cut the face straight down, and we'll explain why later. But lots of times you get this straight down cut over the face like that. Very, very effective to cut the face. Now again, we have the neck on either side. You can cut in here, cut the carotid arteries and the jugular vein. So you need to penetrate about 1.5 inches deep to be certain of cutting these arteries and veins. So you want to get in there and get as much of your blade on that target as you can and pull through and cut that deeply. As hard as you can. A good, hard cutting motion right in there on the side of the neck is very effective. You can also cut the front of the throat. Come in here, sometimes you'll get this as you go past. Again, your blade needs to bite at least 1 inch, 1.5 inches deep to be effective. Don't cut him superficially on the neck. You won't get the desired result. You can cut the traps on either side. That makes them harder to use this arm. Cutting across the pecs, other than raking or harassing, doesn't really get you that much. So it's not that great of a target. You're not, unless you have a Bowie knife or a kukri, you're probably not easily going to be able to cut deeply through those ribs. With a Bowie knife or a kukri, though, you can just cut in here, sever the ribs, and just keep going. You know, you cut almost all the way through the person, so that can be pretty effective with a heavy knife. But if you've got an 8-10 ounce knife, you're probably not going to cut through the rib cage very effectively and get into the internal organs. The abdomen, though, is really susceptible to your edge. Like I said earlier, there's just some cloth covering it and some skin, and after that, it's all spaghetti. Very easy to cut that soft tissue in the abdomen and get those intestines to flop out and uncoil, which is really disconcerting. I mean, you'll lose it when you see your intestines from your disemboweled stomach on the ground and you're stepping on them. It'll cause your mind to spin in 100 different directions. It's a really good place to cut somebody. The Romans knew that when they stabbed somebody in the belly, it was all over. So the soft parts of the stomach are really vulnerable. The front of the thighs can be cut effectively. When I talked about stabbing, I said it doesn't do you that much good to stab the thigh because the muscles run lengthwise and you just separate them. But when you cut them, you make them open up, especially when you cut them on a diagonal motion. If I cut Ron's thigh diagonally across like this, and I can get that to pop open, he's going to have a hard time walking. Those muscles are going to open up and they're not going to close readily again. So that can be a pretty effective place to cut somebody. I like to cut, again, like I said, cut diagonally across the thighs. You can also come in here and you can chop at the knees. Chop above or below the knee and cut the leg off. If you've got a heavy knife, that stroke has a really good chance of taking the leg right off. If you have a kukri or a Bowie and you drop here, you got a really good chance cutting that leg right off. That's a fight stopper. You can also feint high and drop and cut the toe right off. Cut his big toe off or split the toe all the way up to instep like that. You separate that foot like that, he's not going to walk very well after that. He's going to be a one-legged fighter and very vulnerable to be finished. From the back, let's spin over here. The back of the neck is very vulnerable. Again, there's just skin here and exposed spine. You can chop here at the base of the cerebellum, take him out that way, sever the spinal cord. You can cut through the neck right here. And cutting attacks, you can cut the kidneys. If you've got a serrated folding knife or fixed blade that's razor sharp, those kidneys are very vulnerable to be cut. We have an instance in our files where someone defended themselves with a 5-inch Voyager folding knife with a serrated edge, and it was a situation where his friend was in a brawl and was being beat to death, and he couldn't get the people to stop, so he grabbed the guy that was doing the most damage, took his knife, he said, and just pulled one time on the kidney, cut the kidney right in half. He didn't even realize that he had put that much power in it. The adrenaline and that razor sharp edge did horrific damage. Cut that kidney right in half, and that stopped the fight right there. I mean, when the other people saw him bleeding and how badly he was injured, they desisted, beating his friend to death, and rushed him to the hospital, and he was able to rescue his friend from almost certain death. So the kidneys are vulnerable. Also, the hamstrings in the back and the Achilles tendon here. The hamstrings are vulnerable, especially with a big knife. But if you've got a really sharp 8 to 10 ounce fighting knife, just hold still, Ron, and I come in here and I give that a good cut, I've got a good chance of cutting that hamstring. Definitely the Achilles tendon. If I get down here and get in here and pull through, I've got a really good chance of cutting that Achilles tendon, having that roll up, and making him, again, a one-legged fighter. Those are your major targets for cutting. Now from the front, as I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about targets for stabbing, the hands and the arms are really vulnerable to cutting attacks. Extremely vulnerable. Just a slash like that will cut a finger off. You come in here and you snap cut that hand, you're going to knock 2 fingers off probably. If you can get on the top here and cut that thumb off, again, we talked earlier, he's going to be 4 fingers woo. He can't hold his knife without that opposing thumb. He's not going to be effective in wielding a knife with that hand when you cut off that opposing thumb that locks it in place. So cutting the thumb off is a really good target. The insides of the forearms, especially cutting diagonally across, very, very good target for your knife, as are the outside of the forearms. This is preferred, but I certainly wouldn't shy at taking this if it was offered to me, because it's very, very disruptive to his ability to fight. The bicep, again, you've got the brachial artery in here. It's not that far down. It's about an inch and a half below the surface. You cut that, and he's going to bleed out. But in a minute or so, he's going to pump dry. He's going to be finished. If he doesn't get immediate medical attention from experts, when you cut that brachial artery right in here, he's finished. Very, very susceptible, especially to a serrated edge. Ooh, easy to cut that. Those are the main targets on the hands and arms. I like the bicep, the inside of the forearm, and the fingers. Your fingers in your hand are super, super vulnerable. That's why I want you to be really good with that speed jab and that snap cut and that slash, because it doesn't take much to get in, wreck those fingers. Once I cut a couple fingers off, he has a very difficult time holding that knife, and you've changed his mindset. You've really degraded his ability to fight. So always remember, never pass up a chance to cut somebody's hand. Also, you're showing mercy when you did that also. If I can end the knife fight by cutting his hand and the knife flies out, now it's up to my morality what happens next. We're in a bargain position. I don't have to necessarily go in there and finish him. He's finished. He's no longer an effective fighting force. So I've really diminished him totally as a threat now, and I can negotiate his surrender at this point. So keep in mind these targets and think about them as you practice so that you can locate them instantly and attack them with great accuracy at will. Now that you have a better understanding of how to use the edge and point of your fighting knife, I thought I'd teach you about the angles or planes or trajectories that a knife can travel to attack you, or that you can use in attacking your opponent. Imagine that you're standing here and there's a big 360-degree circle in front of you, a big circle. On that circle, at every one of those points on that big compass, an attack could be launched. It can come from high to low. It can come from low to high. Any way or anywhere on that compass, you can be attacked on one of those angles. I'm going to have Ron come in here and just stand there, Ron. And I'm going to scribe this 360-degree circle around him. I can attack Ron at this angle. I can attack him at this angle. I can attack him at that angle. I can attack him at this angle. I can rise with my cuts. I can rise up. I can come straight up. I can come straight down. I can attack at these angles. We'll switch a little bit here. I can come this way at all these angles, all the way. They can constantly descend like this. Or they can constantly rise upward. So they can come this way. All those angles, okay? Very, very confusing and hard to judge and to see where all these attacks are coming from. It's hard to do, but in the Filipino martial arts, they've developed different numbering systems for these angles that are very effective in giving you the idea of the basic attacks. Most people attack in certain patterns. And in 1983, when I was attending Dan Inosanto's college seminar, he taught me the 12 basic angles of attack, and I've used them ever since, and I've never had a reason not to use them. They really do work well in giving you a broad idea of all the different ways that your opponent can attack you and all the ways you can attack him. Now I'm going to teach you these basic 12 angles. What I want you to do is I want you to follow along with me in the mirror in your training area. I want you to come on guard like this. Come on guard. And the first angle that I want to teach you is angle number 1. That's a descending diagonal forehand strike at the neck, at the juncture of the neck, right in here. So that's where you're going to cut that line, descending like that. Number 2 is backhand. So this is number 1, number 2. Number 3 is a forehand cut across the abdomen. Number 4 is a backhand cut across the abdomen. Number 5 is any stabbing attack down the center line of your body, right up the center of your body. Any stabbing attack. Could be low, could be medium height, could be high. Any stabbing attack straight in the center of your body is a 5 angle. Number 6 is a descending diagonal thrust inside the clavicle at the neck, down in here like this, a descending diagonal thrust. 7 is a backhanded descending thrust. 8 is a forehand diagonal descending cut at the head, the side of the head. 9 is backhand, the same way. This is descending forehand. 9 is descending backhand. The target is the head, like that. 10 is a rising cut at the thigh, but it could come higher. Normally we train it at thigh height, but it could come at the waist, it could come at the abdomen, it could come at the shoulder. It's basically synonymous with any rising diagonal cut. Number 11 is backhand from the other side. Thigh height, waist height, chest height, or neck height, or even head height. Any rising diagonal cut like this. 11. 12 is straight down or straight up. 12, you drop straight down, turn your wrist, cut straight up, right down the center line. Those are the 12 basic angles of attack. Now, keep in mind that you can cut these angles or you can stab these angles. I can stab a number 1, I can stab a number 2, I can stab a 3, I can stab a 4, I can stab a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. You can cut them, you can stab them, or you can combine them. It doesn't have to necessarily always be a cut. You can descend with the number 1 and stab back up. So I can cut down, stab back. I can stab down, cut back. You always have to keep in mind that the knife is very fluid, very evasive, very subtle. It can change its motion or direction in a heartbeat. Now I'd like to call Ron out here, and I want to demonstrate these angles of attack on a live target. Again, you're going to get in your fighting stance. You're going to reach out and you're going to cut number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11, number 12, and 12. Get with your training partner. One person's going to stand here like this as the target. The other person from just outside range, now don't smack him in the eye, whatever you do when you're doing this. Stand outside of range. He's just a visual representation of what you need to do. He's just a target. He's a reference point. So come on guard. Think about, I'm going to cut number 1, which is a diagonal descending stroke at his neck. Down, like that. 2, backhand, same direction, like that. 3, forehand. 4, backhand. 5, straight stab at the midsection. 6, descending diagonal thrust in front and behind the collarbone. 7, backhand. 8, downward descending strike at his head. 9, downward descending strike at the other side of his head. 10, rising cut. 11, rising cut. 12, straight down or straight up. Okay? I want you to practice like that a lot. Cut these strokes in the mirror. You know what? It's a good idea. Why don't you follow along with me right now? Come on guard. Get in front of the mirror. Get in a good fighting stance. And are you ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. That's how I want you to practice it. Practice it a lot till it's second nature. And remember that on these angles, 10 and an 11, or a 1 or a 2, they can descend at any target, or they can rise to meet any target. They're not necessarily just at your neck or just at your thigh. What we want you to do is get used to seeing descending and rising blows, straight stabbing attacks, all of these different angles intermixed. That's called line familiarization. The more you become familiar with the different ways that your opponent can attack you, these different lines or these different angles, the better knife fighter and the better fighter, period, you'll be. This concludes the training we're going to do in this volume. Remember, repetition is your friend. You need conditioned reflexes, and the only way you're going to get them is to practice these techniques thousands and thousands of times. Remember your safety. Always wear a fencing mask when you're training and protect your vision, as no one can replace your eyesight. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.